Okay. So first off here, right? We start off, this is kind of your endometrial lining from your last period. So this is kind of the period happening. You have this drop. If you go back to the month before, imagine this kind of superimposed over here, like it's the previous month. You're going to see this drop in progesterone and a slight drop in estrogen as well. Estrogen's the yellow line, progesterone's blue. That drop starts to trigger the endometrial lining to flush out. So you can see that endometrial lining drop over here, day 0 through, let's say 4, right? The average typical menstruation, maybe 3 to 7 days, but somewhere in that time frame. And day 1 is typically your first day of flow. So when you start to have flow, not spotting, that's going to be your first day of your new cycle. So what starts to happen here with a drop in hormones from the previous month, which would be over here, is going to happen. And then that's going to trigger your endometrial lining to flush out. And then you can see what's happening over here. This is your follicle. So that follicle starts to mature, and you can see, let's just say, the FSH starts to rise right here in that day 1. That follicle starts to grow. As that follicle starts to grow, it actually creates estrogen in and of itself. Estradiol starts to peak, and as that estradiol starts to rise up, that triggers the LH to then surge right after it. And that surge in LH starts to raise that blue line, which is progesterone. So think of it as like this. You have a domino rally. The first domino is going to be the endometrial lining sloughing off, and then that's going to then trigger FSH to increase. The next domino will be the follicle to grow. As the follicle grows, estradiol increases. As estradiol increases, LH comes right behind it. And as LH comes up, then progesterone comes up. And kind of where estrogen peaks and progesterone starts to rise, that's where you're going to start to have ovulation. Ovulation is going to be right into that zone. And so that's important. And then you're going to see the last half of the cycle. This is the luteal phase. Think of L for luteal, last half, F follicular, first half. And this is where progesterone predominates. And a lot of PMS issues tend to happen due to a luteal phase defect, either a shorter luteal phase or that progesterone just falls out sooner. It would typically fall out. So if I just kind of give you guys a for instance here, let's just say I superimpose this. I'll put it up in my paint if I can. That'd be cool. And let me just upload it to my image editor here. And I'll pull it right on screen. Let me see if I can do this for you guys. Let me change screens here for you. This would be really cool if I can draw it for you guys live. Window. Yeah, here we go. Okay, cool. And let me draw this for you guys. All right. So if we look at it like this, I'll make this nice and thick. So here's your progesterone right here. And if we start to have lower progesterone, let's say we're starting to get stressed, right? Progesterone can go downstream to cortisol. And so imagine our progesterone starting to fall out like this, right? And so essentially all of this progesterone that should have been made over here in red is now not made. So this starts to lower our progesterone, and this can start to create all the different premenstrual symptoms, right? And so a couple symptoms here, we talked about the breast tenderness, back pain, any mood issues, any irritability, any fluid retention, right? Hormones are going to cause fluid retention. Obviously, when you start to hold more fluid, you may have bloating, and then hormonal issues. Skin is also kind of on that list.